Hello and welcome back to Brick Gaming YGO. I'm back today with my first place Runick Stun deck that I ended up getting first place at a sneak peek with for Legacy of Destruction. For this event, I believe there was approximately 30-ish people there, so pretty good size for a tournament. Overall, my matchups were all pretty good. I'll just get right into the deck list. So starting off, I play 2 Amanos. That is it for the monsters. I only play 2. Just shuts down monster effects. Generally, this card's pretty good going second, not so much going first. Like, sometimes you can put in going first, but I usually take it out in game 2 or game 3 if I'm going first. But overall, decent card. Shuts down your opponents, makes the game much easier to play. Then for the spells, I play 3 Tip to search out my other Runick stuff. 3 Destruction, that's the spell and trap removal one. 3 Freezing Curses, that's the monster negate one. 3 Flashing Fire, that's the monster destruction one for a special summon monster. 3 Runick Slumber, that's the protection / preventing attack one. 1 Smiting Storm, that one banishes cards equal to the number of cards your opponent controls. 1 Dispelling, that's a discard if your opponent adds a card from their deck to their hand. And Golden Droplet, which lets your opponent draw 1, and then you banish their deck. They also all special summon a Runick monster from the extra deck. And so to round out the Runicks, I play 2 Fountain. So about 20 Runick cards all together. All pretty solid. I mean, that's really the whole deck. You just want to see your Runicks as much as possible, and you just want to see multiple in your hand on the first turn, multiple of the spell, just to really get things going. Then for the rest of the spells, I play 3 Defissure. I see most people play 2 of this, but I feel like this card is just kind of insane. It doesn't lose to very many matchups, and most decks definitely struggle with it, so just maxing out on 3 I feel like is correct. And they also make some difficult matchups a little bit easier to play through, like especially against like certain graveyard decks. So yeah, it's solid overall. It just helps deal with more stuff. Just prevents your opponent from playing a bit more. So I just want to see as much as I can. And then if I'm going against, I don't know, Vanquish Soul, Flu, something like that, I can just take it out and put in something equally, if not more, impactful. Then I play 3 Paw of Dualities. This just gets me deeper into my deck. Overall pretty good, plus special summoning on your own turn doesn't happen a lot of the times. Like, I find myself not summoning monsters very often, so it's just basically a free dig. Then I play 1 copy of Card Demise. If I could play more, I would play more. This card's insane. Almost every single time I played it, it was just an instant win, so it's pretty good. I play one day of peace. It's good. Each player draws a card, and neither player takes damage until the end of like my opponent's next turn. Which in some cases this can just save you. I mean, it can just be enough that your opponent can't kill you that turn, and then on the next turn you just out-resource them or just win from there. So it has a lot of pretty good impact. Would play more if I could. 1 copy of Terraforming, just another way to get to the field spell for Fountain, so it's pretty good. Just another card that gets you deeper. 1 copy of Time Tearing Morganite. So this allows you to draw 2 cards instead of 1 during your normal draw phase. The second effect doesn't matter in this deck because I only play 1. I see a lot of people playing 2, and I get why you would play 2. You want to see this card maybe a bit more often, but every single time you see the second one, it just doesn't matter. And, you might think, oh, well, it's like a free discard off of Hugin or something like that. But to be honest, most of the time, you don't really use monster effects after, like, really the first turn, or maybe even the first few turns. And usually you get to your fountains pretty fast in this deck. So I just find the second one just kind of not the best. You only need 1. 1 is plenty. 1 copy of Card Scanner. So this card is pretty good in this deck. It's pretty insane. Once per turn, you get to declare a card name, monster, spell, or card type, I should say. Monster, spell, or trap. Both players reveal the bottom of their deck. And if it is that declared card type, those players, or like, if you reveal a spell and call a spell, you can add it to your hand. If it's a monster, it goes to the top of your deck. So, just depending on what you call it, it's pretty good. Helps sometimes deck out your opponent a bit faster. It lets you see more cards, and then you almost always know what the bottom card of your deck is in this deck. So, I mean, you're just always able to usually guess correctly. Or if you're not able to, it's like, kind of like last-ditch effort, you can just always call a spell, and usually find like a Runick or some other spell off the bottom of your deck. So, pretty good card altogether, plus the majority of your deck is spells. So, anytime you call that, you're pretty much always going to see a spell. Then for the traps, I play 3 Skill Drain. Monster effects don't matter. This deck doesn't care about monster effects. So, a lot of other decks do. So, it's just nice. It's a good card. One copy of There Can Be Only One goes in, and 1 Rivalry. I found myself siding out, I think, for this tournament, I found myself siding out Goes In the most. Tikaboo was pretty good in certain matchups, and Rivalry was also pretty good in certain matchups. Goes In, I felt like, was the weakest, but it's still necessary for certain matchups. Sometimes it does come up quite a bit. And then finally, 1 Synchro Zone. I should probably be playing 2. I just don't have 2, so I played the 1, and was just kind of hoping that would be good enough, and it was. Definitely good enough. I only ever needed the 1. Yeah, it's a good card. Monsters can attack with their synchros, and synchros aren't that big right now, so that was always pretty nice. Then for the extra deck, I play 3 Hugin. This is pretty much mandatory. You want to see Fountain, you want to have your stuff protected, is just really good. 3 Munin. This card can just win games. Like, you can get to a certain point in time where you just gain so many life points, you just never lose. Also, just more protection, just like Hugin, in a lot of ways. It just protects your stuff, so your Runick stuff in particular, well, mainly your Runick stuff, so it's just really good. Really solid. So Hugin, Munin, both solid protection cards, and both have extra utility outside of that. Then I play 3 Gary. To be honest, I found myself making 3 Gary all the time. I think it just like comes up so often when you just have skill drain up. The game state is simplified. Somehow Gary and your opponent can either try to get rid of Gary and try to go for damage, or they just leave it up, and if they leave it up, that's fine. If they get rid of it, that's fine. We gotta pop one of their cards. So it's really solid. And then also late game, sometimes you'll be able to get your Fountain back off of Gary with its effect to add it back to your hand from your graveyard. So it's also pretty good. I find myself making this card all the time. Then I play 3 Freaky, or Frecky, however you want to say it. Yeah. This card is just good. Additional banishing when an attack is declared. Neither player takes battle damage from battles involving it, so you can summon an attack position. If your opponent's stuff is too small, they can't deal with it. Or if they have a big guy, you're just not taking damage, and they can potentially banish more cards off their deck. And then also, once if this card is destroyed by battle card effect, I can add a Runick quick play from my graveyard to my hand, which did come up in a few situations, or at least one notable situation where that came up quite a bit, and ended up leading to me winning the game. So, it does come up, does matter. Now, this deck is really budget, all except for 1 card. And the 1 card that isn't so budget is Typhon. I just play 1. I've seen some people play 2. I've seen some people play 0. I think 1 is fine. I would probably play 2 in the future, but I mean, this deck is super budget outside of this. Like, I think the whole deck is like easily under $50. It's so cheap. So this is like the 1 card that actually does cost money. That's pretty fine. Makes the deck still very affordable, under $100 for this whole deck. And this deck just wins games. It just wins games. 1 Baguska. Only made this guy once today. It came up against a Vanquish Soul matchup where I just needed more space. So I just made Baguska, and that was fine. Overall, it's okay. You don't make it very often, though. It rarely comes up. And then, just 1 card. I couldn't figure out what to do for the last card. I'm like, everything's fine, just don't have another Typhon. And now I'm just trying to play this deck pretty budget, so I just threw in a Nittis. I guess if I ever play against Dogmatica or anything that sends from an extra deck to the grave, this could be kind of funny, but honestly, it was just kind of a blank spot, and I'm like, I'll just throw this in, why not? I could put SP in, but I was just trying to play this deck super budget, so yeah, did not do that, but pretty fun. Nitsis, cool card. Never came up. I play in the side deck 3 Lava Golem. You could play Spear mode, but I find against some decks, like some decks want to end on 2 guys at the most, and so I want to take that into consideration. Like, if your opponent leaves 3 guys on the field, like that, I feel like that doesn't happen as often as they leave 1 or 2 monsters on the field or end with that. So I just put in Lava Golem because I'm like, well, I think 2's enough, pretty much. Like, really all that takes care of like 99% of things you have to worry about. So I just played 2. It was good. Didn't really come up. The card that did come up in the side deck quite a bit, this card was Clutch, is Spooky Dogwood. I want a lot of life points, and I want to win in time, and my deck is kind of slow and pretty grindy, and can go on for very, very long if my opponent doesn't scoop. And I go into time a lot. So I put in the 3 Dogwood just to help me win in time. And I saw myself even playing this card in game 2s of certain matchups, because it's like, if my opponent can't do enough damage, or this card just gets me far enough where I'm just, in time after a very long game 2, then I can just win just because of this card. For the spells on my side deck, I just simply play through Raigeki. I mean, you could play Lightning Storm, you could play Harpy's Feather Duster. I think this deck struggles the most with other monsters, and, I just put them in because I feel like Raigeki is good enough to blow up your own board. So if you summon down a mono, and then you play Raigeki after summoning a mono, going second, that's just insane. It's insane. It feels so good. And Raigeki, I mean, it's kind of a weird choice, but I feel like it's pretty good, in my opinion, and it works out quite a bit. Then I play 3 Solemn Judgment. I feel like you have to. I don't think there's really a choice. I think you have to play 3 of these. Because you go first in game 2 or game 3, and opponent can put in blowout cards like Lightning Storm, like Harpies, like Cosmic Cyclone. And this just gives you one more answer to those cards. So I feel like this card's worthwhile enough to just put in. And I think you kind of have to. And then finally I put in, and I should probably change these ratios a bit, I think, but I put in 3 Grave of the Super Ancient Organism. And yeah, this card came in clutch quite a bit. It definitely won me my round 2 against Labyrinth. I couldn't really find any way to stop their big ladies in the second game until I saw this card. I'm like, okay, I'm set. Just once I got this card on field, just won that matchup pretty quickly from there. Also against my Voiceless Voice opponent, it totally beat them. Beat them pretty badly. In game 3, I was going first, saw this card in Synchro Zone, and that was enough for them to just never be able to deal with my board. So yeah, this card definitely came up. I could probably play 2 and then find another card to put in. I don't know, maybe like a single Harpy's Feather Duster or something. But 3 ended up working out. I saw against every single matchup that I needed to see against, so yeah, it was pretty good. Pretty solid. Yeah, this was originally 3 Cosmic Cyclone, but I took out the Cyclones because I feel like this deck does pretty well against other back row decks. Like, other back row decks I feel like struggle against this deck, at least for my test playing and for my experience playing this deck. So I'm like, I'm not really too worried about that. I'd rather deal with like Branded, Voiceless, or any other big monster deck where it's a bit harder to deal with. So for this tournament, despite having a very high player count, we only had 4 rounds, which was unfortunate because that meant there were going to be 2 undefeateds at the end. I was lucky enough to have better tiebreakers for the sneak peek, and so I ended up winning. So my first round was against Virtual Soul, or not Virtual Soul, but I just combined 2 decks into one by saying that. But I played against VS round 1. I beat them 2-0. They did not see D-Shifter. That's the only card that really stops my deck in that matchup. And that deck also struggles against Floodgates. They didn't have any outs for my Floodgates. We talked after the round. And yeah, they just didn't really have much cited for this matchup. So I'm getting that one 2-0. Round 2, I played against Labyrinth. That deck was... In the past, I've struggled against that deck, just trying to understand it and play against it, so I spent a lot of time in the past just learning that matchup better. And I ended up winning 2-0. They couldn't deal with they struggled against the D Fissure round 1. They had a pretty hard time with it. And then in game 2, I ended up playing down Grave of the Super Ancient Organism, and they were pretty well on cards, so that was enough by the time this card resolved, and I was set. Round 3 up against Dinos, or Dino Combo. It was pretty interesting. I was not expecting to play against Dinosaur. It was a matchup I haven't really done a lot of testing against. I ended up getting that one 2-1. Game 2 was just, they went first and they just had too much for me. I thought they were going to go second. That was my initial prediction, but they ended up going first, so, completely miscalculated that. But then in game 3, I just dogwooded until I was very high in life points. I made Munin, gained more life points, and just ended up decking them out, and they couldn't really deal with Floodgates plus my very high life points by that point. Then in the final round, I played against Voiceless Voice, which was the toughest matchup of the day. I got game 1 I would say pretty easily. It wasn't too difficult, game 1. Game 2, I lost. I just couldn't answer their stuff. I couldn't see my side deck, and I got the single worst card demise draws. I just saw Lava Golems off of my card of demise. I'm like, oh no. So that was very awkward. And then in game 3, I misplayed like crazy. I did not think I was going to win game 3, but I am seeing Grave of the Super Ancient Organism plus Synchro Zone, and they just couldn't play through it. They could never get to doing enough damage or getting to any of their guys. I banished all 3 of their lows, and I ended up just decking them out. I did not play that last game very well. I made a few miscalculations on my Runick card, so I could have won faster, actually, but I just completely miscalculated that. Plus, I missed, so I played on Time Tier Morganite and missed a few draws because I was an idiot. I was so focused on trying to, play around all their stuff that I ended up missing that. I was like, oh no, this game is over. But they played worse than me, made more mistakes than me, and winning. And that caused me to win the tournament. So, got first place. There was one other undefeated, but their tiebreakers weren't as good as mine, since all my opponents actually ended up doing really well in the tournament. So, yep, that was the tournament. I'm going 4-0, undefeated, for the LEDE sneak peek. I hope you guys enjoyed the video.